think there's essentially two ways to approach life, whether it's conscious or unconscious, that we are living and being and engaging life, either from the idea and an energy of survival, trying to survive, being in survival mode. How many of you know that you have tried to live in survival mode? Defensive, fighting, trying to save your life. How many of you found yourself there maybe sometime this week? It can still happen. That survival and survival mode, or thriving. You see, there's a difference. When we're in survival mode, that's all about trying to save our life or save our face. Not being embarrassed, not being hurt, not being at risk for dying or feeling like we just want to die. Or there's thriving. When you're thriving, the focus is not trying to save your life, but it is realizing that your life is here for a higher purpose. And so thriving is about allowing yourself to be used for a higher purpose. I truly believe that's what the sacred text means when it talks about that we are to die before we die. We're to die to the idea and belief that we're here to survive. We're to go ahead and accept the idea that we're going to die anyway. And rather than allowing this life to be consumed with that, to let that go and give our life. It's a difference between trying to save your life and being willing to give your life, to make your life of use. And young people, I really encourage you to think about that as you move through life, am I surviving or am I thriving? And there's an interesting way to look at this. There's a story about 4 individuals who were on a puddle jumper plane, and the captain came on and said, "I have horrible news. We've just lost something, and we're losing fuel very quickly. This plane is going to go down. So you need to go into the back, find your parachute, and we're going to have to all eject from the plane." And so very quickly, all 4 ran to the back, and they opened up, but there were only 3 parachutes. One person, without even thinking, just grabbed one and said, "You know what? I'm scared, I'm selfish, I have a family," and jumped without saying anything else. The second man grabbed a bag and he said, "Well, I am the smartest man on earth. People need me, the world needs me, I must be saved." And so he grabs a bag and jumps. Who are left is an older man and a little boy. And the older man looks at the little boy and says, "Son, I've had a good life. You're just a young man. You take this last parachute and you jump and you don't look back." And the little boy said, "That's not necessary, sir. There are 2 parachutes. The smartest man in the world just jumped out with my backpack." And so it's not about trying to be the smartest. It's not about being the most perfect. Any of you have that illness called perfectionism? You know, whether you seek to be perfect or you do everything you can to avoid even acting like you're going to try to be perfect. We're all in relationship with that. But instead of perfectionism, it's about connection. Life is really about connection, and thriving comes when we live in the awareness of our connection to who we are and all that is. And so in honor of our graduates today, I want to share 3 things. These 3 things have been passed down from indigenous generations. They show up in songs, but they're 3 things that have been taught for many years that are the 3 most important things a person needs in order to live a life where you can thrive versus a life merely focused on survival. The first thing, the foundational thing that we all need is something to believe in. You know, of all the people in the world, we all believe in something. Even the person who says, "Well, I don't believe in anything," well, they believe in the fact that they don't believe in anything. So no matter what, we all believe in something. Be it God, a higher power, the universe, spirit, unicorns, whatever. People believe, we all believe in something, and it's really important to have the ability to believe in something, because that's your foundation, what you believe in. When I was in Unity Seminary, we had a 2-year project, something that would take place for an entire 2 years. And the title of the project is called My Credo. Now you may know the word credo is Latin, C-R-E-D-O, and it means I believe. And so this 2-year project was to focus on what I believe. It wasn't coming from the perspective, the school wasn't trying to tell us what to believe, rather it was seeking to draw out what we believed. For us to become aware of what do we really believe, not just what do you profess you believe, what do you wish you could believe, but what do you really believe? To spend time in that. And then when you really believe it, to be willing to own it. To just not just say it's sort of like the little boy in Sunday school when the teacher said, "How many of you believe in God?" Every hand went up. And then the teacher said, "Why do you believe in God?" And only one hand went up, and the teacher said, "Son, why do you believe in God?" And he said, "Well, I believe it runs in my family." That there's a lot of beliefs that just run in our family or run in our church. That unity, I love that. New Thought is more, it's not about rules, it's about equipping you with tools. Tools for your own life, tools to cultivate your own spiritual, carving away anything in your awareness that would block you from knowing who and what you are. And so our capacity to believe in something is foundational. During this 2-year time at Unity, some of the questions that we were asked and that we would write about these, talk about these, we had to go before our advisor, professor, and sort of defend these. Again, not because it was right or wrong what we believed, but they wanted us to really distill it. Why do you believe these things? Things such as, what do you believe about the nature of God? Have you ever really thought about that? What do you believe about the nature of humanity? What do you believe about the concepts of sin and evil and grace and salvation and the devil? What do you believe about the law of karma? Why do bad things happen to good people? What do you believe about Jesus? What about the Christ? What about other spiritual traditions and other avatars and spiritual teachers? What do you believe about angels and spirits and death and dying? And then some of the most important, what do you believe about yourself and your potential? What do you believe is your ultimate purpose in life? And the crux of all of this is, at the end of the day, what do you believe in and why? And so I ask you to consider that. What do you believe in and why? We all need something to believe in. I personally believe that we are the likeness and image of God, that in God we live and move and have our being, and that within and through and as us, God all that is expresses. I believe that every individual is created with sacred worth, that there is light in the soul, and every individual should be created with dignity and respect. I believe in forgiveness and compassion and kindness. I believe in generosity. I believe in hope. I believe in truth seeking and truth telling. And these are just a few of the things that I believe in. And these are the things that when there's no one else around, and when it's me and only me that is going to pick me up, what is the voice inside of me? What is it in my heart? What do I believe? I really encourage you to spend some time with your credo. What do I believe in and why? When you can really connect with that, if you find that there's shaky ground or it's full of holes, you don't really know what you believe, let that be okay. And offer that up. What I believe is I don't understand, but I want to believe. Guide me, Spirit. If there is a great Spirit, guide me. And I promise you, you will be guided into your own foundational beliefs that lift your spirit. The scriptures in Timothy, it says, remember to stir up the gift of God that is within you. Remember to stir up the gift that is within you. What is the gift? The gift of God within you. To stir it up, lift it up, to stir up the awareness of your spiritual nature, that you're not just a person who has a spirit. You are a spirit expressing in this lifetime, and there's so much more to you than meets the eye. There's so much more, and so to allow and build your foundation upon that. So what do you believe in? The second thing that we all need in order to thrive is we all need something to love. You know, in the English language, the word love is used for so many different things that at times it's really hard for us to pinpoint what are we really talking about. You know, we can say things like, I love your shoes. I love the way John sings. I love the way Richard plays the piano. I love gardening. I love Christmas. I love being here. But is that really love, or could I substitute every one of those with I really like that, or I appreciate it, or I'm fond of it? So often we use the word love, which is fine, but love is so much more than that. And so when we're talking about we all need something to love, you see, our spirit and our soul feed upon love, and love feeds the spirit and the soul. We need to love something so dearly that we allow our spirit to be enlivened. When I lived on Maui, I interviewed this couple. I wanted to share a story about a man and a woman that had been in his life with our congregation. I discovered a woman who lived on the island of Maui at the time. Her name was Susie Schwab, and Susie had been living on the mainland and was diagnosed with a terminal illness, cancer. The doctors told her she just had a few months to live. Susie's family situation was such she didn't want to tell them because it wasn't a healthy environment. She knew that it would not be helpful to her, it wouldn't be helpful to them. And so what Susie's guidance was, she said, I just want to go somewhere by myself and live the rest of my life in peace. And so she literally got out a globe, the kind that you could spin. And she started spinning that globe, and she said, God, universe, guide me. And as she was spinning the globe, she closed her eyes, and then she just put her finger down, and it stopped, and she looked, and it was the island of Maui. And so she sold everything, moved to Maui, found a little apartment, and that's where she was living as she was growing weaker and weaker. Well, next door to her was a man named Sylvan. Sylvan would notice that Susie was out in the morning, out in the evening, so he would go over and he'd talk to her. They sat in a swing together, and day after day they had these really wonderful conversations, and he found himself falling in love with her. And so the day come, Sylvan told me, he said, the first time I said to Susie, I love you, she jumped up and ran out of the door crying. That was not what I expected to happen. When I caught up with her and asked, what's wrong? She said, I'm dying. You can't love me. She hadn't told him why she was there. She didn't want anyone to know. But when she realized he was in love with her, she said, you can't love me. I'm dying. And he said, well, it's too late. I already love you. And it doesn't matter to me if you have a week, a month, or the rest of our life together. I am not going to let you go, and I'm not going to let you go. I believe we've been brought together for a purpose. So 2 days after that, when Sylvan came home from work, he noticed a bird had fallen, a baby bird fell out of a nest, and it was on the ground struggling. He picked it up and he took it in, and Susie went right over and started taking care of the bird. Within a couple of days, he noticed that she seemed to feel better. She had created little ways to feed the bird, and she was really forgot about her pain and herself, and she was loving and taking care of that bird. Sylvan saw that that was changing her, so he went to work and said, does anybody have a sick cat, a sick dog, a goat, a sheep, rabbit, snake, anything? And they started bringing in things, and he would bring them home because he saw that her loving and caring for them was the first thing that seemed to really animate and bring her to life. Would you give me the slide? Well, today, 39 years later, this took place in 1977, this is Susie and Sylvan together today. Long story short, she was completely healed over time. There was no trace of cancer in her body. These animals, he had to quit his job, and they founded what is called the East Maui Animal Refuge. It's lovingly known as the Boo Boo Zoo. At any given time, they have between 300 and 400 animals. So our church on Maui, we'd go out and volunteer. You know, it was a neat thing. You would hold a bottle and feed a baby goat or sort hay. God only knew what you were doing and taking care of. And they have so many animals in their house. I don't know how anybody lives, but they love it. And it made such an impression on me when I interviewed them, because I realized having something to love literally saved her life. That the indigenous people knew when they were teaching us that love ignites the spirit, and that the spirit feeds that love feeds spirit and spirit feeds love. They feed on each other. So we all need something to believe in. We all need something to love. And don't be afraid to love. It's like the sort of the cliche, it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. Well, to me, if you really love, you never lose. Because when you open your heart and love, you will come to discover what you are made of, and that is love. And as you love, you become more and more of that. We all need something to believe in. We all need something to love, and we all need something to do. Now, some of you may say, oy vey, I don't need another thing on my to-do list. Can anybody else agree? Got this long to-do list. We're busy being busy, or whatever we're doing. We just got a lot to do. Even this young man just worked a 2 back-to-back shift. We're busy. We have a lot to do. Our life can become consumed with doing. Amen? I believe I came out of my mother's womb and I jumped up and said, all right, let's get on with it. What are we going to do? It took me having anxiety attacks to begin to realize I had to learn to live my life differently. I had to find balance between doing and being. But here's the difference. It's about making room for the things we love. It's about being intentional. We all need something to do that allows us to be of service in a way that ignites our soul. We need something to do that is rich and meaningful and allows us to be on purpose. And so I encourage you, if your life is so busy, just going down the checklist, that you honestly feel almost like you're a zombie just walking through the motions, to take a deep breath. What do I believe in? What do I love? And what is mine to do? There's a story, Richard, if you would prepare for the song. There's a story about a battleship that had been out on sea on maneuvers for a number of weeks. The captain was worried because the weather was getting worse and worse. It was deteriorating. He was tired, but he was determined to do what he needed to do with that as the captain of that ship. When he was out on the deck, he noticed a light in the distance. And so he asked one of his men, he said, is that light moving or is it stationary? And the man determined, he said, that light is stationary. Well, if the light was stationary, it meant that they were on a collision course together. And so the captain picked up his radio and said, please change course 20 degrees. We are on a collision course. The signal came back, no, it is advisable for you to change your course. The captain signaled again, I am a captain, and I'm asking you to change your course. The signal came back, I am a seaman second class, but I'm asking you change your course. The captain was then quite furious. He said, this is a battleship. This is the USS Lincoln, the second largest ship in the United States Atlantic Fleet. We are accompanied by 3 destroyers, 3 cruisers, and numerous support vehicles. This is the last time I'm asking you. I command you divert and change your course 20 degrees now. The reply came back, this is a lighthouse, but it's your call. Yeah. Some of you have probably heard that, but it speaks to me because oftentimes life brings out in us something that causes us to act like we're a battleship, to just feel like we're on it alone, we got to go through, we got to fight, we got to plow through. That in our doing, we can get caught up with that. I want you to consider that you are a lighthouse and that you're already doing things every day. And that whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you're loving, whatever it is that you're believing in, do it and be from the presence of being a lighthouse. It's true, you are the light of the world. And we can get caught up and consumed in being those battleships. How many of you know what that feels like? But how many of you know what it is to know that you are the lighthouse? That there is a presence and a power that is your very true nature. I want to lead you in a song that will guide us into, this is a Chinese proverb that has been put to a tune that talks about a light in the soul. That when we're thriving, we have something to believe in, something to love, and something to do, we begin to thrive and our world begins to change. Join me if you know the tune. When there's light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there is harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there is order in the nation. When there's order in the nation, there is peace.